been meaning to do a review of these boots for a long time. These are, I think, no longer in production, but if you can pick them up, you should, and I'll tell you why. They're called North Face Hedgehog Hike Mid GTX. I bought 2 pairs about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So this is one that I've used for years, like 2 years. And as you can see that this thread or tread indentation, it was the same on this side. So you can see that whatever this height of this gap is, which is about 2 or 3 millimeter, is gone from this side. That's just, that always happens to me. Other than that, the sole looks great. And you can resole these. You might need a guy who's like a bit more experienced at that kind of work than a normal dude, but yeah. So what is special about these boots? Well, I think that they are a very good hybrid boot. They're quite heavy. They're not ultra light and thin, which is the new craze to have like really thin, like lightweight boots. And they're partially leather. So this is leather, this front section. Down here is leather and here is leather. And then this entire piece here, as well as the tongue and this whole piece on the other side, is like a mesh which allows, this Gore-Tex underneath this mesh. And that means that these boots dry your feet out extremely well. They don't let a lot of water in because the tongue goes all the way up to here. So basically the boot is like a waterproof capsule, a Gore-Tex capsule up until this point. So that's a good, I don't know, inches, centimeters, whatever you want. It's a good amount of waterproofness. And because it has so much mesh, more than half the boot is mesh with a bit of cushioning and a Gore-Tex membrane underneath it. So I regularly would have a swim in the evening, rinse my socks while I'm on a hike or on a journey, and then put my socks back on my feet, partially wet, and put these boots on. And they would just vent out. My feet would be dry after like an hour of activity. The Gore-Tex it's ridiculously breathable. I actually don't like Gore-Tex for winter camping because it's so breathable that you lose vapor too quickly. I find like it's in bivvies and in jackets and so on because the air in winter is so dry. But for boots, it's amazing. Which kind of brings me to the main point that you would think that these boots are really heavy and they would be suitable for hiking or winter or autumn. But you can use these boots at 25 degrees Celsius. That would be kind of pushing it, but 22, 23, like a warm day, not a hot day, you can use these. And you get the benefits of having like a rigid ankle capsule. It's not that tough, but it is pretty tough. Having a mid boot, which laces up. As soon as the laces engage, you really get a lot more support. Something I don't like about the new thin boots for outside use is if you ever are walking on like unprepared trails or like doing something at night, maybe with like night vision, you can't see what the fuck you're doing with your feet. Especially if you're walking with a night vision unit, you can only see like a 40-degree cone in front of you. So you're going to be mainly looking forward. Your feet are going to regularly bump into things. And if you have this new modern like thin boot, like the trail runner style, like super thin, lightweight thing that feels really good on your foot and really nice and modern and light when you try it in the store, it doesn't protect your bones. You got a lot of small bones in your feet, and it doesn't cushion those bones against impacts. So when you have these thin boots on, if you start walking around somewhere and bouncing your feet off sticks and stones, and it's not really pleasant. So this It sounds like I'm rambling a lot, but I'm very impressed by the fact that they managed to get in 1 centimeter of cushioning in the tongue and like 2 centimeters of cushioning with a thick piece of leather. This is leather, and this is, relatively thick leather, and still have a boot that's breathable to the point where you can use it at like 23 degrees Celsius, which is basically like a warm day. I also think that they look amazing. I'm kind of bummed that they don't make them anymore. I'll definitely try to find some in a warehouse somewhere and get them. The other thing that has impressed me about this North Face product is I had the Merrel MOAB 2 boots. I've done a review of them, and it got a couple. It gets quite a lot of views, per month relative to what the rest of my channel gets, sadly. But the build quality on this product and the other North Face stuff that I've bought since beats the ever-loving shit out of the Merrell build quality. Merrell didn't seem to have nailed one of the most important factors of modern boot construction. They don't have the adhesives down correctly. Because look at this quarter guard, this front quarter guard. This is rubber that is like harder than a bicycle tire, like twice as hard. Like it's, I got some nail on me right now, like nothing. If you just take my word for it, that I've used this boot for at least a year in the outdoors, running around at night, hitting stones, hitting sticks, sometimes hitting like a small piece of wire that someone left somewhere or something like that. And this quarter guard doesn't give a shit. It's totally fine. The branding is faded, but there's no puncturing, there's no scratching, there's no, most importantly, or maybe not most importantly, but equally importantly, there's no delamination. There's no separation of the quarter guard material from the front of the boot. So with the Merrells that I had, the boot was quite nice. It didn't look as good. It didn't have any real leather on it. And the front quarter guard was substantially smaller, and it didn't adhere correctly to the boot. So this has been, in my opinion, like just fantastic. And the toe, it's so rigid that I'm pushing this down with, I would say, like 5 kilos of force, and it just goes down a little bit. And at the front couple centimeter, 2 centimeter where your toes are, it's not going to go down at all because it's so rigid because of the curve of this rubber piece. And they just really have nailed that in terms of the adhesives. And you got to remember, adhesive technology as well as welding, ultrasonic plastic welding, that is the main difference between like a legacy traditional boot, which would be a sewn construction made out of leather with a bit of glue on the sole. Even if it's very traditional, we'll have a welt and it won't really have as much glue. And a modern boot. So I think I would definitely go with North Face in future, just because I see that they've got the modern side of it down. I had to glue in a heel liner because they stitched it in the middle at the back, which is a common mistake the shoemakers are still making. I would love for them to weld the Gore-Tex liner and have no stitching. As soon as there's a stitch point, especially if it's at the heel, it's going to take a lot of weight, it's going to take a lot of abuse, and it's going to, have a bad time. So I always just, this is not even any like amazing special glue. As you can see, it's not even holding correctly, but it's just some cheap fabric glue that I got. Then I put in a separate, just a liner. This is designed for people with flat feet. So it has a nice high arch, which, I don't know, I think it seemed to help me out. And I guess the last thing is that because this whole back section is leather all the way around the back, that whole X, all of that is leather. And this front section is leather, and I think also under the quarter guard would be leather. You get the pleasure of waxing your boot, basically. You only wax the leather section. But there is nothing that really wears in flex around the toe as nicely as leather. So this is after literally at least 2 years of use. It's got a slight crease, and I don't predict that that would ever get any worse than that. See, that's the kind of stitching that they use at the back. So that sort of line of stitching was the same that they had right at the back here, and because your heel is just rubbing on it constantly, it eventually wears it down. So I don't know how useful this video will be as a boot recommendation, because I don't know if you could find this boot. It's again called the North Face Hedgehog Mid Hike Gore-Tex. I don't think it's in production anymore. But this is the best boot that I've ever had. It's so tough, and in the city it looks like a sneaker, and it's perfectly at home in any kind of low altitude mountaineering. It's not as hard as you'd expect a mountaineering boot to be, but for what I call a hybrid boot, which is like a trail runner that can also be used for light hiking or hauling backpacks, riding bikes around, just general outdoor stuff. This is amazing. And I would say if you're a delivery guy and you need something that's tough and reliable and gives you a lot of support and protection and is reliably waterproof, I would probably look towards North Face. So I guess this is kind of an anti-Merrel video and a suggestion of what to look for when you're buying a pair of hybrid boots. Look for good construction, look for good material selection. Probably go with Gore-Tex, because the main difference between Gore-Tex and there are a lot of other waterproof breathable membranes, like basically each outdoor company has one. The main difference between Gore-Tex and them is that Gore-Tex is Teflon. So it has a much longer lifespan. Like North Face have their own called Dry Vent. It's lighter, but because it is not a Teflon, it is like a polyethylene, which is similar to Teflon, but it is not Teflon. It's more similar to this material, this kind of a trash bag material. So it's more flexible and less scratch resistant. So I would say if you're looking at footwear, try to go with Gore-Tex if you want something to last a really long time. If you're looking at jackets, sometimes the non-Gore-Tex products are a better option because they're more comfortable. They may not last as long or be as rugged, but Gore-Tex I find is kind of overkill for anyone who's like not spending very extended periods of time in very difficult weather. And like I said, Gore-Tex is sometimes too breathable. The last, I guess, criticism I had was that this foam, you got the sole, and then you got this layer of cushioning. You got this thing, which it looks like it's weird. It looks like you think it's just a fashionable add-on, but actually it contributes a lot of rigidity to the boot. And when your heel lands on here, this is so hard that it kind of makes a leverage arm from this point to here that kind of acts like a suspension. That this leverages inside this foam and then keeps your heel kind of suspended and not just hitting straight into the foam. So they've really, really worked this out like very well. The only thing I don't like is that this foam has these kind of childish patternings in it. I mean, I guess it's all right, but it's not anywhere near as durable as the rest of the material. And in terms of like the fastenings, like these quick loops, whatever they're called, the actual holes that the laces go through, look at how thick the part where the laces go through is. Like nearly it's like 5 millimeters thick or something like that. And I'm holding it in my hand. That's leather inside, and this is a seriously rugged piece of laminate, because it's like multiple materials on there. I actually think that they don't make this boot anymore because it's too good. So I would say if you can pick it up, you might find that it would potentially become one of your best friends. And again, look at it. This is after years of use. Ignore this little bit of white foam, because that's salt from. I just washed them yesterday, and that's just a bit of salt. And I need to put more leather cream on, because I just put a little bit on this morning. But try to find me a boot that can deal with a year of outdoor living. Because I'm doing it like pretty seriously. I'm outdoors like for weeks on end, and end up looking like this. I would say I'm very sad that they don't make this anymore, because I haven't found anything that's like this. Not from North Face, not from any of the other companies. It's just in wearing it, because it has the leather. Leather gives you such a comfortable, natural feeling on your foot. I kind of feel like I'm wearing dress shoes. It's just such a high quality product. So I'm going to end the video here. Take the tips and the notes that I've mentioned and apply them to your next boot selection. Really weigh in if the product that you have in your hand really seems like a fantastic product, because they can make them really, really good. This is such a blend of the old, the ruggedness and beauty and good feeling of leather. See, there's a bit of oil coming off. With the rugged addition that modern adhesive technology allows, along with the welting and this rubbering. What I mean by that is like that this is more like a modern adhesive welt, because traditionally you'd have to sew on a quarter guard like this to get it to stay. But if you choose the right adhesives and the right materials, you can get something that stays there for years. So I don't know exactly what the point of this video is, because you probably can't find this exact product. But just take these tips with you. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe, do so.